I'm Ellis Martin. Join me now for a conversation with Adam Smith, co-founder and vice president of business development for Oroco Resource Corp, a public mineral exploration company trading on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol OCO, and in the U.S. on the OTCQB market under the symbol ORRCF. Oroco is focused on the development of a large copper deposit in the Santo Tomas Project in coastal northwest Mexico. Oroco currently has an 8.5 billion pound copper endowment announced in May of this year after an extensive drill program. Copper mineralization at Santo Tomas is located at surface and therefore potentially amenable to low-cost mining methods. It's very well located with respect to the infrastructure that's essential to a large mining operation, and Mexico is among the world's top mining jurisdictions, with laws and trade agreements that protect the rights of mining companies. Since commencing exploration and resource definition at Santo Tomas 3 years ago, Oroco has made a series of rapid advances. These milestones will be achieved against the backdrop of a positive forecast for the price of copper, possibly to historical highs, as a result of dramatic shifts in metal's importance to industrial and consumer markets. Adam, welcome back to the program. It's great to visit with you.
Thanks, Ellis. An auspicious day for us to be talking. Oroco today put out the results of an optimized preliminary economic assessment for its Santo Tomas copper project. The numbers are great. The market's responding nicely. And I'm really looking forward to getting out over the coming months and telling investors about this project and these results.
Well, share those numbers with us if you don't mind.
We published a mineral resource estimate in 2023. We followed that up late in the year with preliminary economic assessment. And from the moment we published that first PEA, we realized there were some optimizations possible. There were a number of improvements possible in that study. We have conducted additional studies. We've changed the mine plan. We've optimized a number of aspects of this project, and we've realized very significant gains. So we have increased the net present value from about $1.25 billion to about $1.5 billion. At the same time, we've decreased the capex, initial capex for the project, from about $1.4 billion to $300 million lower to $1.1 billion. So for a $1.1 billion capex, this is a project that has $1.5 billion net present value. Sales at today's copper prices annually will be about $1 billion. Margins are a little over 50%. All-in costs in this mine are projected at $2 per pound, and that includes everything from production to mine closure costs, for instance. So it's an all-in cost. C1 cash costs are even lower. They're $1.54. But this is a project that will produce over $1 billion in gross revenue, $500 million in EBITDA annually for 22.6 years. The unleveraged internal rate of return identified in this study is 22.2%, which is well over the hurdle rate that a builder would require for a project like this. So these are terrific numbers, and this sets Santo Tomas up as one of the most capital efficient, low cost, high production new copper sources in the world.
In the world.
Been a declining rate of discovery of new copper assets over the last 30 years. Over the last several years, the number of new significant copper discoveries has been vanishingly small, and the number of independently owned projects, companies like Oroco that own undeveloped copper assets, is very, very small. There's terrific scarcity of these coming at a time when the world is using more copper and the world's big copper sources are in decline. So terrific story of tight supply and challenges to new supply of copper mines at the same time as we're ramping up copper consumption tremendously. The green economy, renewables, electrification is all very copper intensive, and we are set to use more copper over the next generation than we have in all of industrial history. It'll be an interesting time to watch copper prices over the next few years and the next decade or two. For those companies that own assets like Santo Tomas, it should be a very, very good time. Copper prices are forecast to rise significantly with demand and challenges to supply. So the companies that have, like us, that have assets, that have a clear line of sight to development, that have positive economic numbers and compelling numbers that make it a good investment for a mining company are very, very few. The world needs an estimated 60 to 80 new copper mines over the next decade to meet demand. But the number of potential sources of new production of copper, new mines able to be built, is just a fraction of that. And an even smaller number are independently owned by companies like us. The expectation is the big miners will be looking to add to their copper production. Mergers and acquisitions in the sector have already picked up in pace, but the number of targets, companies like us, is very, very small. So I like the odds. It's very asymmetrical here in terms of the potential to be bought out and the value equation, as this new PEA demonstrates, $1.5 billion NPV versus under $100 million of market cap in the company right now makes that a very asymmetrical equation as well.
Adam, that's a wonderful and, in my opinion, an accurate macro picture. What are you going to do with this information? What is Oroco going to do with this information? How will it help you during the next weeks and months and during the next year?
I think it's going to attract a lot of attention from potential investors and from both the retail investor, the institutional investor, as well as potential acquisitors of the company. And that is the end goal here. It is not to build this mine. Oroco is set up to find the asset, to find the mine plan, or demonstrate the mine's potential, rather, and to ultimately see this be acquired by a bigger fish, by one of the world's big mining companies wanting to add to their copper supply. These numbers demonstrate, as I've said, that this is one of the top, most capital efficient, big producers of copper in the world. There is a capital structure, i.e. it's a public company. It's available to be acquired by a bigger fish. And over the next several months, I expect that we're going to be having a number of meetings with those bigger fish, and they're going to want to take a look under the hood and see the data for themselves, put their own mine plan together, and assess the value of Santo Tomas.
Been a tough market. Everybody knows it in the mining space for the last couple of years, and we hope to see a turnaround soon. And this is the perfect time to look at equities that are potentially extremely undervalued. Having said that, what's your position on the cycle right now? When do you think that the turnaround is going to happen? We know the copper prices are high. We know that the electrification of the world is not going to be dialed back at all. It's moving forward very quickly, but we're all concerned as investors, where do we put our money right now? What's the timing like?
So you're right. The copper sector has a lot of prospects for investors right now. We recently saw record high prices for the copper metal. Equities did not follow suit. Copper metal came down. And I think we've seen over the period of 3 years now, risk of recession. We had COVID, and we've had a challenging equity market for junior miners. Oroco and a lot of its peers are trading near multi-year lows, despite the fact that a number of us have demonstrated the viability and the value of some of our assets. So that's good news for investors. A lot of the risk in these stocks, a lot of the valuation risk has been reduced or nearly eliminated. And I think companies like ours with a $1.5 billion net present value and a less than $100 million market cap offer very good asymmetrical bets for investors. This is a very good time to get in. Copper prices are marching back up again. And if that continues, we should start to see some interest in the equities. The major mining companies are getting cashed up because of high metal prices. And they're starting to talk about the need to augment existing production, to buy assets that they can put in production. So M&A is perking up. There's not a lot of us targets out there for big copper M&A, and valuations have been beaten down, giving investors a very, very good entry point.
And usually when you're talking about an M&A, the best prospects for return on investment for investors are in fact M&As. And they're not that common, but they do happen. And Oroco looks like a good prospect. My words, not yours.
I appreciate that, Ellis, and I agree with you.
Adam, it's always great to catch up with you. Thanks so much for joining me today on the program. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Ellis. Look forward to it.
I've been speaking with Adam Smith, co-founder and vice president of business development for Oroco Resource Corp. Oroco trades on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol OCO, and in the U.S. on the OTCQB market under the ticker symbol ORRCF. Go to the company's website, OrocoResourceCorp.com. For Adam Smith and Oroco Resource Corp, I'm Ellis Martin.
Would you like to be one of the first to see who we are following? Subscribe to our audio newsletter. It's free. EllisMartinReport.com.